Welcome to the Weather Guru podcast for August the 13th, 2024. This Tuesday edition, tropical edition. Today we're talking about Tropical Storm Ernesto. As of the latest 5 p.m. advisory, Ernesto is gaining a little more strength. Winds are now at 60 miles an hour, making it a mid-grade tropical storm. Pressure is down to 1,001 millibars, and it's continuing west-northwest at around 16 knots or 18 miles an hour. So it's moving at a pretty decent pace, on pace with Puerto Rico to affect Puerto Rico. It's heading into the Virgin Islands, expected to become a hurricane tonight, passing northeast of Puerto Rico. So towns like Fajardo, Carolina, San Juan could be experiencing that right front quadrant of the storm as it makes its initial approach. But right now, the concern is for the British Virgin Islands and the American Virgin Islands of St. Thomas and St. Croix tonight as tropical storm conditions begin to move in. So right now, it's about 65 miles southeast of St. Thomas, 135 miles, 215 kilometers east-southeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. And like I said, this is going to become a hurricane tonight, and it's going to be moving as it moves to the north and to the east of Puerto Rico, between the threaded needle between the passes between Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. So tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches remain in effect here. And I want to show you the latest cone here. Not much change. Has continued to wobble either east or west of Bermuda later on in the forecast track. But right now, for the certain track in the near run, the 24 to 48 hours here, in the blue, we have tropical storm warnings now for much of the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Antigua and Barbuda. And we also have tropical storm force winds now in the orange. They're light orange or light yellow. That's been affecting the BVI, British Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. Croix, Christiansted, all the way into Vieques, Culebra. Now some of these tropical storm winds affecting the Puerto Rican islands, the east of them, and later on tonight, Puerto Rico will get the worst of it as far as the tropical storm conditions that are going to be bearing down on them. So we can see the wind history here. It's all tropical storm conditions here that affected. Started out here in some of the greater Antilles, the lesser greater Antilles here, Martinique, Montserrat, Saba, Saint Eustatius, islands of that nature there, Antigua and Barbuda, and then it moved up into here to the big islands here, Vieques, Culebra, BVI, St. Thomas, St. Croix, and that's where we're at right now. So it's going to become a hurricane tonight. Tropical storm conditions are expected in Puerto Rico this evening and tonight. That's the worst of it. So after that, conditions will begin to improve later on in Thursday morning. But right now, we have conditions. Hurricane conditions could be possible on the Virgin Islands, Culebra, and Vieques, like I said, this evening and tonight. Heavy rainfall is going to bring impacts of rainfall potential anywhere from about 4 to 6 inches of rain. It's possible in some of the mountains to the El Yunque, and those mountains in the rainforest, 8 inches plus in those higher elevations of Puerto Rico, as well as St. Croix, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin. You guys can expect 2 to 4 inches as it continues to wind up here. And then most of the heaviest rain, though, that big batch of bullseye stays offshore. That big 12 inches of rain or more, that kind of stays offshore, denoted in that orange. So that's some good news here. But it is going to be a heavy rainfall event for eastern Puerto Rico and towns to the south of Puerto Rico, on the southern side of Puerto Rico, like Guayama and those towns on the southern side there, and Guanica and those areas on the southern, Guayamo, those sides on the southern, southeastern side, of Puerto Rico, Yayacuba, and then those areas into El Yunque Forest, and just to the south of San Juan and Carolina. Fajardo is going to be involved, Carolina, and then of course the islands of Culebra and Vieques, they're going to get the joke of rain. St. Croix, you're going to get a lot of rain too as well, 4 to 6 inches of rain for St. Croix, and then the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, and the British Virgin Islands, Tortola, and those islands like that, they're going to pick up 2 to 4 inches as well as we continue on with Ernesto's total rainfall here. So there's a chance for peak surge here, but it's not that significant. 1 to 3 foot of water rise here because it's not quite a hurricane yet. So surge levels are going to be kind of high, but nothing too crazy here. It's just tropical storms. It's only going to produce 1 to 3 feet of surge for Puerto Rico, Culebra, Vieques, St. Thomas, and St. John, and St. Croix. That's the only islands that have to worry about surge from this. So just be sure to protect life and property in terms of that there as well. So looking at the satellite loop, we can see Atlantic-wise, Ernesto is the only game in town right now. We have some in the Eastern Pacific waves that are producing some things that's going on. But right now, Ernesto is the only game in town. You can look at the satellite group here, and you can see that Ernesto has a lot of strong convection on the northeast and southeast side of it. But on the western side, it's still flanked by little gaps of dry air in this system, and that's what's struggling with. It's struggling with a little bit of dry air, and some wind shear is also struggling with. It's battling with. See, it's not vertically stacked completely yet, but it is intensifying here. As you can see, this explosive fanning out of the high cirrus clouds around it. So it is intensifying, but just slowly, and because it's fighting off some conditions that are not favorable for rapid intensification, if you will. So that won't be happening in the short term, in 24 to 48 hours here. But this is the latest on Tropical Storm Ernesto. It's going to become a hurricane. It will become a hurricane tonight. Probably by the 11 p.m. advisory, we'll have this as a hurricane coming into the National Hurricane Center here. And then from there, we'll continue on. But the movement continues to be fast, relatively fast for a tropical entity at west-northwest 18 miles an hour. They expect that to continue. And now it's just a question of, ladies and gentlemen, how soon of it is going to turn. Is it going to go directly into the eastern part of Puerto Rico and then make a turn, or is it going to turn before it gets to Puerto Rico, before it makes actual landfall and make that northwesterly turn there as it follows the subtropical ridge of high pressure, the Bermuda high, as it shifts back and forth. So that's a big question mark there going into tomorrow night, and then we'll see what happens from there on as far as Bermuda, the impacts later on this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, how close it gets to Bermuda for any impacts as a Category 2, possibly Category 3 borderline major hurricane at that point, with winds up to 111 to 115 miles an hour sustained. So we'll see. Thank you very much for joining me on the Weather Guru. Please be sure to subscribe, and I appreciate all your support. See you in the next episode.